the experts that we have here with you. We're going to be talking about voices in action and getting some expert insights and best practices on what you can do to establish or grow your customer experience initiatives within your own organizations. And so I will start. We have joining me to my right, Erin Wallace, coming back with us. She did an excellent job this morning giving us some insights from her past experience and as well as at Bain and Company on the customer experience futures and what we can expect to see as it impacts the equipment industry. And so at Bain and Company, Erin is focusing on customer-led growth strategies and customer experience transformation. So she advises clients across the globe. So she'll bring to us a lot of different experiences from other industries that we can tie back to our own. She's based out of North Carolina, and Erin, too, like myself, is a farm girl at heart. So she's been working in agriculture for 20 years. Past experience in the machine equipment industry from John Deere to working in the seed and crop protection business at BASF. So she maintains her certified CX practitioner designation awarded by CXPA, and she also serves as the global board of directors and mentor to new CX leaders. And then, so welcome, Erin. And to Erin's right, we have Todd Bachman joining us. He is the president and CEO of Florida Coast Equipment. They are the nation's largest Kubota dealership. And since joining Florida Coast in 2006, Todd has led an extraordinary expansion from just 3 dealerships to now 14, transforming the company into an industry leader. His focus on superior customer service and product support has really been what sets Florida Coast apart from his peers. So today, with 250 employees across the various locations in Florida, they continue to set the standard for excellence in equipment sales, rental, and service. So thank you, Todd, for joining us. And then next I have with us Mary Sullivan. So Mary is joining us as the marketing director at Gateway Dealer Network. She has expertise in both U.S. consumer markets and global B2B industrial sectors, a strong background in sales. She seamlessly aligns strategic marketing planning, leadership excellence, and creative execution to build markets and drive sustainable revenue growth. She specializes in market segmentation, developing compelling value propositions, and positioning brands for success across key channels. So thank you, Mary. And next we have with us, again, we had the pleasure of having him join us last year as well, but Paul Chappell. He is the Senior Customer Experience Manager at Hudson, Inc. So with over 12 years at Hudson, Paul has been instrumental in shaping customer experience, team leadership, as well as operational excellence. He's the Senior Dealer Experience Manager there. Paul's driven impressive results, improving the dealership Net Promoter Score from a 70 to a 90, exceeding John Deere's goals. He also oversees the Voice of Customer initiatives through Satisfied, as well as the OEMs John Deere experience surveys, gathering insights from nearly 7,000 responses in 2024 alone. And by implementing a customer-focused strategies, such as a 90% post-sale follow-up rate and reducing unresolved issues to under 5%. Paul has reinforced Hudson's reputation for exceptional service. So thank you, Paul. And last but not least, I have Sean Buchanan, who is the Director of Marketing and Projects at Berry Companies. So with over, gosh, you've been there quite a while, Sean, right? Experience in in construction equipment, and even prior to this, at Berry Companies, another dealership, he's been able to blend technical expertise with strategic thinking to lead teams and solve complex challenges. Sean oversees the marketing operations as well as project management, specializing in brand management, digital marketing, AI generation, customer experience, and process improvement. His ability to streamline workflows and leverage technology fuels his efficiency and growth. So thank you, Sean, for joining us. And I just wanted to say to everyone here in today's session, we, just like earlier, we are welcome to answering questions. So there's a Q&A down at the bottom of your screen if you may be just tuning in for the first time today, where you can leave questions. So we've come up with themes or topics that we want to discuss with all of these experts in today's session. But at the same time, we welcome feedback from each one of you. So if you have specific questions that you would like to address to our panelists, please go ahead and throw those in the Q&A, and we will make sure that we get to those. So to get us all started, I think one of the most important things we can talk about is customer experience. We had some good introduction earlier in today's session about kind of the future and where we're headed. But I think it would be great for everyone to get an understanding of how you're utilizing customer experience, maybe in your organization or past experience, as a competitive differentiator. So anyone want to kind of jump in and share a little bit about what you guys have done to maybe impact your success and drive growth as you compete with your local competitors?
I can jump in there if you'd like.
Yeah.
So I think for us, one of the main drivers is just communication. For us, we have the survey responses that come in, and we take those survey responses. They're divided up into different groups. Everything from good job to you've got an issue. But we take those responses that we get and push those back out to where the issues or the good jobs came from. And we encompass the leadership group within, we call them divisions, groups of our stores together. But we encompass that leadership group all the way to the person that was on the front line. And I think for us, just getting that feedback communicated and pushed back to those people, back to those channels, really gives them a really good insight to what those experiences are. And so they can adjust or adapt whatever they need to, in each situation to improve and make sure that the next experience for the next customer is hopefully equally as good or even better. So I think that's the main thing for us, is just that communication channel to keep everyone engaged. This is not just a top level project or people on the front line. Everyone is engaged, and it really helps drive some of that accountability to keep doing a good job for customers.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I don't know if anyone else wanted to chime in, but I think we heard that a little bit from Scott too earlier in his session about getting everyone engaged in this process. And I think that you hit on a really good specific example of how people could do that by sharing that communication at all levels.
Look, one of the things that we're using it for is that, especially as you're trying to scale, obviously, if you have 2 or 3 dealerships, you're in those dealerships on a regular basis. It's pretty easy to walk over to the parts guy that you saw handle a difficult customer, put your arm around them in front of folks and say, "Hey, this is a great job." What we've found is that the best way to get to change behavior is to point out the behavior that you like, or the behavior that is it's very easy to point out what you don't like, and I'm not sure how effective that is. I'm as guilty as anybody. When I walk in and I see a place look a mess, it's very easy to say it looks a mess. But we have found that taking time to publicly acknowledge the behavior or the response that you wanted is really effective. And so when we stay committed to that, we see that kind of move throughout the organization. And so one of the things that we're really encouraging is, not only do we want, great reviews, but we want them to name the person in the great review. And when we get a name, and it may just be "Great job, Bob," chances are there is going to be an email coming from me to the entire company or to that store saying, "Hey, awesome job." And what we're doing is, not only am I thanking the individual that did provide that service, we're trying to reinforce that behavior and show the behavior that got the reward, or that got acknowledged, and saying, "Hey team, this is what," one of our things is, "Hey, this is what superior customer service and unrivaled product support looks like. Thank you for doing that." And you're thanking the whole team for that. So that's one of the things that we've really used it for, is to reinforce the behaviors that we're trying to create kind of across all 14 locations.
Todd, I love what you just added, and I'd like to build on that, because addressing this challenge of how do you take these spotlight behaviors that have resonated really well with customers and make that not just the efforts of a Superman or Superwoman, but something that everyone at the dealership can do is can sometimes be hard, right? And so getting the team together and talking about like this amazing behavior that resonated so well with customers. What would make it easy for all of us to do that together, right? And then think if we call it the ABCs of change, the A is the antecedent, or what would make it easy. And then how can we reward that behavior as well? And acknowledging it, calling it out is a great way to start. And sometimes if it's something that we really want to make core to our culture, building in an even broader reward system makes sense too. But I love the focus on the positive.
And
I want
I'll add it takes a lot of discipline to stay positive because it's very easy when your phone goes off at, I think ours come in at 11:59 or whatever. It's very easy to see the twos and go, what are we doing and why are we doing this? It's about going, hold on a minute, let's deal with the twos privately. If we have a chronic two, we may need to deal with that publicly if we're all doing something wrong that maybe our culture or maybe a change that we've made in our company is coming through, whether it's a pricing change that we didn't communicate properly, things like that. But it's staying disciplined on the positive.
Yeah, and I want to point out one thing that Todd had mentioned also about scalability. One thing we've experienced over the past few years is growth through acquisition, and that consistency across the board is pretty important. So when you have more than one or two stores, it gets to the point where are you all speaking the same language internally and externally? So and really trying to drive a solid brand experience for all the branches internally, but also for the customers externally. And we definitely give a shout out every time our reviews are positive, and we're trying to reinforce that with each of our branches because it's important. And it goes back to, the customer experience and some of the earlier sessions regarding just, how important employee recognition can be and how powerful it can be to that downstream customer experience.
I want to go talking about culture from the very beginning. I'm not a very competitive person. I don't have to win, but I don't want to be number last. And so we're so driven by data and scorecards and metrics and margin and first pass fill and 40-11 different other. And so what I've tried to reinforce with our group is that if you got a 7 or a 6 might be accurate for the day that you were having. You may be one person on the parts counter. You may be a brand new tech that doesn't know where the bathroom is. And so the context of the score, not trying to drive the score, but for what I try to do with our group is, what are you learning from it? And how many times do you have to learn it? After about a time or two, I kind of figured out that the stove's hot. And so if you have that individual that continually scores low, I think that's kind of what Todd was talking about. Well, then have a one-off conversation off to the side of it. But really, it's about how am I getting stronger and how am I getting better and how am I changing that customer's day or that customer's life just based off of that interaction. And if that data comes in at a 7 or 8, I want a 9 or a 10. Then it'll happen. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I think, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add onto that, but maybe we could kind of take that and segue into, how are you guys all handling those poor experiences when they come in and it, as it may impact reputation, churn, things like that. Anyone want to dive in first?
Yeah, I can jump in first again. So I don't know that we have. I guess what I would say, let's back up. I think what I would say is we watch for repetitiveness and try to make the determination: is this a process issue or is this a people issue? I could think of one instance that we had a while back to where we were getting a lot of responses about our parts. We didn't ever have the right parts in stock, and when we took a little miniature deep dive into the situation. We maybe had a button not turned on in the computer system to order the parts the right way. So minor adjustment, but that feedback came back through those surveys. So that wasn't necessarily a people issue for us to address, but it was a process. So it's not always about the bad surveys relating to per se that people experience. So, but like I say, for us, looking for those repeat issues, trying to determine is this a system or a process issue, or is it a people issue, and working on those, just trying to make the best of them. There are times where we get a lot of some repetitive people issues, and we have to exactly what you guys said earlier, address those one off, make those corrections. We implemented some customer service training a while back, and that's been very beneficial across the board, to help keep those scores up, to get people engaged and that sort of stuff as well.
Sean, did you do the on-site customer service training, or did you do it virtual, or how did you do that?
Well, what we did is we put together it was basically a day's training, and myself, and then the torch has been passed, but we went to each one of our locations. At the time, we weren't quite as big as what we are now, but we went to each location, each division, and did a day-long training. The majority of the training was based off of, and I'm going to reveal all the secrets here, delivering knock your socks off service. We basically took that book, took the mission and the values from our company, and blended those two together and came up with, I would consider a pretty comprehensive training for phone skills, for email etiquette, for when people walk in the door, smiling, greeting customers, that sort of stuff. And we even went as far as made some phone calls to the competitors right there in the training session and said, this is how the competitors sound. And then what better yet than to call back to the store and say, and this is how we sound. So that really opened everyone's eyes to a little bit about, oh, that's how I sound on the phone. Or this is what it sounds like when you don't use your name or greet customers or use their name, that sort of stuff. So just trying to get, we all come into this thing every day and we say, oh, everyone knows how to take care of a customer. And at the end of the day, there was a lot of tribal knowledge that was happening, and things got passed down. And, pretty soon you find yourself people answering the phone, rental, and you're like, that's not the best experience. Let's introduce ourselves. Let's ask them their names, that sort of stuff. So, those are just some things that, like I said, we've tried to implement and kind of even the playing field across our locations.
Don, I can think of, I remember two experiences from my time with John Deere that I thought of as you were sharing your examples. And one, relative to how to deal with challenging conversations or bad experience with customers. One was from my time at John Deere Financial. And it was important for employees to understand not just the policy, but the spirit of the policy, right? And that's the connection back to the brand. And so I remember going through training with all of our collections department members, explaining that why we exist, right? To serve the equipment company and to enable customers to purchase equipment. And that if we can't work with customers in a way that enables them to make the next purchase, then we're not doing our job, right? And so we have to interact with them from a collections engagement, even though our ulterior motive is to collect money, right? But we have to do so in a way that shows that we're invested in the relationship and we're making choices for the long-term benefit of the relationship. And I think that's the second point, when you're dealing with complaints or these challenges, is helping employees be empowered to take risks for the long-term relationship, which is tough, particularly when we have to balance short-term financials as well as long-term business ownership. But I remember when I was a division customer support manager for Deere, and we were dealing, I think this was back in 2018, we were dealing with 7R transmission problems out the wahoo in the Northeast. And these failures were happening, after warranty period, at the end of warranty period, they were happening repeatedly. It was super challenging. And being able to understand the customer, like not just handling the specific need of the customer to get a tractor in the field, but also how to invest in that customer relationship, particularly and maybe more so for customers that were strategic to the dealership, right? Versus a one-time purchase, like, and being able to tell the difference and talk through those situations and how to make those types of decisions is super important as well to move beyond what does the policy say I can do versus what's the right thing to do for the business and the customer.
Absolutely.
Does anyone have any great suggestions on how you train or empower those frontline employees that are having those interactions? Or, and that's making an assumption that you do enable those frontline employees to do some of that follow-up. And I know that could be different within each one of your organizations. We find that, you know, some organizations prefer to keep that somewhat centralized, that process. Others then sort of decentralize that and delegate it down to the front line. Does anyone want to share examples of how they're doing that within their organization? And I don't think there's a right or a wrong way necessarily in that. I think it's what works best for your business. But how you're handling that today? Because that's a common question I think we get asked when people are looking at onboarding a voice of customer program is, you know, well, who do we need to have involved and how do we handle this and what suggestions you might have?
One thing we do at Gateway Dealer is we kind of position all of our branch managers as their own entrepreneur. So we're pretty poised to give some empowerment all the way down to the branch level, and within reason, of course, right? We've got region managers that oversee that, but there is very sort of open-ended decision making that can be happen to do the right thing by the customer. I think that does reflect sometimes in our scores as well as upstream back when we get that loyalty, that repeat business, that continued revenue from that particular customer. So
great. Does anyone else want to contribute? Todd, did you have something?
So, I mean, we probably have a little bit different of approach on this, is that there is a massive amount of focus on the customer. And you want to make sure that you've got empathy for the customer and that you understand the customer on the other end. But we're really looking at this of, okay, hey, are we doing right by the manufacturer? Are we doing right by Florida Coast? Are we doing right by the customer? Because at the end of the day, probably isn't the most popular opinion, but the customer is interested in the customer. Frankly, they're not interested in our profitability. Customer loyalty in a lot of ways has declined, no matter how good your service is. And so what we tell our folks is at the end of the day, you come to Florida Coast and this is how you feed your family. Part of our vision, mission, values is that we're here to empower Floridians to do more. And I don't mean that by starting by empowering customers to do more. I start by making sure we're empowering our customers to do more. I want to build a company that our guys can come to work, or gals can come to work. They can have a career here. And so we start with that conversation. So, you know, just because it's what the customer wants doesn't mean it's what we should do. And ask that I not be quoted on this way. If, you know, you don't want to treat customer like children, but if I let my children eat candy every day, they would eat candy every day. I've got to do right by my customer. I have to do right by my manufacturer, and I have to do right by my employees and my team members. And we really try to start the conversation there. We have found that if you come at the customer's always right and we're focused on the customer experience, man, I don't know about you, but you know, I probably don't want the customers making those decisions for us. I want us to have a core set of values that we want to make sure have, first and foremost, we're going to look internally. Have we done everything to take care of the customer? If we've done right by the customer, if we've done right by our manufacturer, we're willing to help. But there is a limit to our help. And really what we use a lot of the satisfied surveys for us coming back, if we see a repeated problem, chances are I got a people problem. I don't like, is it, I haven't, if we not, you know, I'll give you an example where you use data points. We had a parts guy recently that we saw a decline in his survey ratings. So we use that data point. And we know he's a great parts guy, Well, what we realized is that this guy was getting 35 phone calls a day because he was so good on the parts counter that all of the customers were calling him. Well, guess what? We made some decisions that some customers didn't like. Some customers didn't get to have access to him anymore. At a certain volume, you got access to him because that was the right thing for that. And so, um, it's a long way of saying this. I think it's got to be a data point, and it's always got to start with making sure your people and your business are healthy. If you don't have good people and you don't have a strong business, you can never serve a customer. And so I always say we're going to start with this, and we're going to start evaluating our people and our business, and from there we're going to make sure we can service the customer. Because at the end of the day, I'm not Amazon. I simply cannot meet all of the customer demands of today, but we're going to learn from these surveys the best we can, set expectations, and empower our people to do the best they can do to take care of them.
Todd, what I love about your answer is that you've made like choices, and in making those choices, you're making things easier for your employees, right? About the customers that are most valuable for your business. And you're honing in right on the experiences that will matter the most to those customers. And oftentimes that's what employees need, because otherwise we think every customer should get the same level of excellent service because we're human and we want to make people happy. And so making those choices makes things easier and simple for our teams. I like that.
And look, it needs to be simple. Obviously, the more complex and the bigger the organization gets, the simpler we need to make things. But it just has to, you just got to look at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, if people don't feel safe to make a decision, they're not going to make a decision. So you want, again, all of this sounds great in theory. It's very hard to do. But we're using this information we're getting, this data points, to take care of our people.
I think that was really well said. I appreciate you sharing these insights, and that's exactly what we're here to do today with everyone joining us, to learn from this, and I think that's fantastic. Just to kind of move in to another topic, and I think we kind of talked about these first two themes. We talked about kind of competitive differentiating and what we're doing to excel in customer experience. But Todd, you brought this up a little bit, and around, we've got to serve our dealership, serve our employees, serve our manufacturer, serve our customer. And it's an interesting balance of things. And we have some interesting perspectives with people on this call, background from OEM manufacturers as well as from the dealership perspective. But how do we best support the customer between these different relationships that we have? And I don't know if anyone has any experiences that they can share with working with their manufacturer and how they have delivered maybe exceptional customer experience from either the manufacturer or dealership perspective.
So I'll jump in because this is an area that I spend a lot of my time and energy, and I start with this with our folks. And OEMs probably love this, and this is a little bit of a colorful analogy that HR probably will get a little upset with me on. But here's the reality: our OEM, Kubota, is my wife, and you know what? Sometimes I'm not very happy with my wife, and sometimes my wife isn't very happy with me. But you know what? Publicly, we're not going to talk about that. And when Kubota doesn't ship me a part, we're not telling you that Kubota forgot to ship a part. There was a delay. At the end of the day, when there's a massive warranty recall, you know what? Kubota's doing the right thing by doing the recall. We're not saying, oh, here they built another product, there's another problem. So to me, you have got to protect your OEM relationship. And you cannot build your brand. I mean, if you look at our logo, Kubota is the most dominant piece. If you look at a deer logo, if you look at a Bobcat logo, at the end of the day, we are nothing without our spouse, and that is our manufacturer. And so we work really hard, and probably the quickest way to be terminated at Florida Coast would be to trash the manufacturer.
Well said.
I don't think HR would be upset with that. I think that was great.
Well, when I'm not supposed to talk bad about my wife or ever, but I guess, you never know.
Any best practices with managing that sort of relationship between, obviously the manufacturer has a relationship with the customer and the brand loyalty component, as you mentioned, like it's the first and foremost in your logo, but you're servicing the same customer and you have that sort of direct face-to-face relationship as in the dealership as well. So any best practices or things that initiatives that maybe you all are doing differently that you might want to share and how you collaborate and work together? And that's okay if not, that's fine. I think it's a
Well, I'll
common
jump
question
in.
sometimes that comes up. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
no, I can jump
Mary.
in. I'm still pretty new here, Gateway dealer, so I might, this might be my last panel session. No, I'm just kidding. But we have a great relationship because we're so spread out across the country from Savannah to San Diego, as I like to say it, that we're I can't think of the word but we're graced with having some great district managers, and those guys are constantly on the road for us and working with us and our region guys as well as our branch managers on a daily basis, and making sure that we're supported from their side, and then we're doing our part on delivering things back to them, whether it's reporting or feedback and so forth. And I from my experience in working with corporate, they have been more than accommodating to me, as far as also me making suggestions or us having a collaborative conversation to suggest things back to them if something was missed or we see an opportunity. So they've got a dealer operations program that it seems like they're starting to kick off in a couple of different key areas of the Bobcat world, and they're coming out and they're meeting with us to make sure that we're up to speed on it. So those have been pretty good interactions from dealer to manufacturer.
One of the things that we do is I try to think what other dealers are talking to Kubota about and avoid those topics. You get very little attention. You just don't want to be a part of the noise. Every dealer tells Kubota they want more financing and they want more target funds. It's ridiculous. You are forbidden at Florida Coast to talk to the manufacturer about that. We go to your point, Mary. What makes a difference? And right now there's a specific topic that we're being very focused on. But I think manufacturers, if you look at Kubota, for example, there's almost 700 dealers with 1,400 locations. From 1,300 of those locations, you're hearing the exact same thing over and over and over again. There's no need to waste your time and your energy on that. Find one or two really specific things that you believe is going to make your dealership better, that will make it easier for your team to service our collective customer, and stay on that message. Clear communication, clear expectation. But if you're talking about finance programs, you're just talking about the wrong thing. They've already figured those things out.
All right. Well, I think that's great. Our next topic was really focusing on leveraging technology, and I want to talk about that. But we got a question that came in going back to customer service training. And so, does anyone have any customer service training that they may do online or virtually when they onboard new employees? Have they found anything, program or processes that are successful in your organization?
Last 2 years ago, I went to every location and pulled up our net promoter score for the company and then for that location, and then drilled into the key performance indicators that you guys provide, and said, again, piggyback on what I said, it's not so much about the score. I'm not here to beat you up on your score, but as you look at these KPIs, I want you to look through the lens of, is this an attitude that you can control, an effort that you can control, or a skill that you can control? And so not all of them tie to that, but the majority of them do, especially when it has the word attitude in it, friendly attitude. And so I got to do that one, it's about 6 weeks over the summer, and I'm pushing to be able to go back and do that again, because that probably gave us the most bump when it came to increasing what that customer experience looked like, because it was personal to them then. It wasn't, again, back to my point, it wasn't somebody coming in to beat them up off the numbers. And it took me 20 minutes to convince them to gain their trust that that's not what I'm here for. But I am here for you. I want you to see what this snapshot looks like. Well, Paul, that's not fair. That I know what that particular survey was. Well, I get that, and from a dealership standpoint, you're 100% correct. But as a couple of people have said all morning, the customer doesn't care from the dealership standpoint. They care about it from their standpoint. So if that answers your question, Emily, I think we do a lot of virtual stuff. And anytime that there's a store meeting, or that there's a parts manager meeting, or a service manager CAM meeting, I'm always raising my hand going, I want 20 minutes. Let me talk about my stuff, because none of the rest of them are. But probably the most effective thing was being able to get out. And there was some time involved. There was an expense involved, but we were able to show that we did take a bump when we did that.
Mm-hmm. Paul, I agree with you. In-person training and coaching is like the most effective solution, particularly when it comes to behavior change. I'll maybe share two things in addition to that. One, and this is not a sales pitch at all, but we have developed training for customer experience over the last couple of years. And I've personally worked with customers in teams as small as 5 and as large as 15,000 to deploy that training across their organization, because it's pretty scalable. And we combine a hybrid approach. So employees can take the training online at their leisure, and then we bring the team together in a virtual, what we call guided learning session, where there's a discussion about application to their department and their team. And that seems to be a nice middle ground between like managing cost of deployment and effectiveness of implementation as well. That's really focused on customer experience, kind of from start to finish, linking to purpose and why, to coaching for managers on how to work with their teams on those engagements, and on follow-up conversations to feedback, to how do we drive action as an organization. And it's kind of customized based on the type of learner that's involved there. So happy to share more information with that with anybody who's listening that might be interested. And the other thing I heard recently that's new, that we're testing within Bain Academy, an arm of Bain, is an AI assisted learning, which basically replaces, I don't know if it replaces, but what it does is it enables role playing essentially for frontline employees, right? And so it presents, it listens to interactions. And so I guess like in a call center environment or a frontline environment like that, it could be effective. It listens to interactions. It also provides feedback, but it also customizes potential interactions. You role play with the virtual assistant, and then see kind of how you can improve in those engagements. And I think I think role playing is super effective. Nobody likes it, it's terrible, but it's super effective. And so like having the ability to do that, not with another person judging you sitting in front of you, but like with a virtual type kind of teacher, it might be kind of cool. I haven't tried it myself, but it's been getting really rave reviews.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And that was one of the topics we had talked about, was the role of AI. And Ryan talked about this earlier in the beginning of the session, and leveraging all of this data that we have around the customer to be able to, sort of replicate that customer in a virtual environment. So we can start to predict things, in this case, maybe even training virtually, to do some of this role playing. Now, I don't think anyone probably in this room is quite there yet, but are you guys utilizing AI in your organizations? And is there anything that you're doing that may be streamlining the customer's experience or working to improve it?
We're testing it in the shop. I mean, if you talk to any service writer and any shop foreman or technician, one of the biggest friction points in a shop is getting that work order written properly. We're seeing if it can be with voice to text, if it can do AI, if the technician, we believe we can train AI to write specifically if it is a customer repair or warranty repair, to eliminate some of that friction. Traditionally, a technician speaks technician and a service writer speaks service writer, and those languages don't work together well. We're going to see if it works. We're going to try. It'll probably take some time. So that's one area. And then honestly, I use it a ton because I can take what would have taken me 45 minutes to put an email together and do it in about 37 seconds. And I feel like I am getting time back. in my life to be focused on other things. And so I think it's really good. And we've seen it on some of the chat boxes and things like that. But today, what we're seeing, that stuff's pretty easy to see that it's AI. And there's a customer that doesn't mind that. There's a customer, I'm one of those customers. I would love to do it that way and not have to. I'd rather not interact with a salesperson, even though I'm a salesman at heart. I would rather not interact with one. So there's people that enjoy that, but I'm really looking at it on how we can remove friction points and reduce time in the dealership.
I would say for us, we're piloting, whatever you want to call that there, some AI in our websites. I don't know that all of our customers are quite there yet. When we talk to customers, firsthand, they tell us that they enjoy the engagement with the sales rep. The sales rep is the one that takes care of them when they have problems and issues. But we all know that their journey through everything we do in marketing, we're trying to direct them to our website for one reason or another, whether it's store hours, phone number, information, contact, whatever the case is. So I think we're starting to move that way to see if we can enhance the experience with the customer with a GPT on our website, so they don't have to necessarily hunt around on the website for their information. They can just ask a simple question and it return an answer to them. So that's one thing that we're doing there. And then behind the scenes, I would tell you that we have quite a few automations that go on. We use Parser and some other things to glean information off of emails and then transpose it into other things like Smartsheet. We use Smartsheet quite a bit for lead management. We're engaging in that pretty heavy with some AI type technology there. So more probably on the backside right now than on the front side, but definitely AI is a topic on a daily basis for us.
Emily, Bain has a partnership with OpenAI and Microsoft, and we spend a lot of time on the generative AI topic. And next week I'm at a workshop or a forum, and one of like several where we're digging into with leaders this particular topic. And I think one of the similarities, right, to customer experience with Gen AI is the best place to start is with your employees. How can you use the technology to make it easier for them? It's also less risk, it's safer versus testing things with the public first, and your employees hold nothing back, right, with telling you what works and what makes sense and what doesn't. So if you don't already have your toes dipped in the water, dip them in, or you will be behind, and dip them in with your teams. That's what I would say.
Aaron is 100% right. If it's wrong, the employees are the first ones to raise their hand and say, "That's not right." Thank you. We're working on it.
Aaron, you touched on something too that I think it's kind of like every time you go around to election year, they tell you it's the most consequential election of your lifetime. I can tell you now, if you aren't trying new things and if you aren't adjusting, you have months, not years left in this business. Things are changing so quickly. Customer expectations are changing quickly. What the manufacturer's needs are changing. We specifically in our vision values say that we provide equipment solutions to customers. Obviously, I don't say we're a tractor dealer or construction dealer, because I don't know if 4 years if we're going to be on a subscription basis for machines or not. I don't know if we're going to be automated. I can tell you things are changing so quickly. If you are a small single store dealer today and you want to grow, figure out where the market's growing and you can run past people that are 50 stores that are stuck. Things are changing, and to kind of give you guys a plug, Emily, you're going to be able to tell very quickly if you are giving customers what they want if you're staying engaged with your customers on a regular basis through this survey feedback that you guys give us. You may not tell us what we're doing wrong, but we can see very quickly if we're not reacting to the trends and the way customers want to behave. And I think you maybe hit on this, Aaron. I actually believe that what AI is going to give us mostly is it's going to give our team time to re-engage as human beings with our customers again, which is what we are all. I mean, I don't care what study you're looking at. The more technology we have, the more people crave 2 minutes of human interaction without a cell phone in their hand. And if we're able to reduce the stress of our team, and then when that customer calls in and their machine is down in the field and they're having a terrible day, and our team is not buried in inventory counts, they can go, hey, I've got time, I can help you quickly, and I've got an AI tool that's going to help me quickly, and I can walk you through this. If you're able to do that, game, set, match, I don't care what manufacturer is a part of it, you are going to change the market in your market. And if you're not doing those things, I seriously believe you have 18, 20 months left, not years, as a top performer in this business.
Yeah, well said. I think that you're right. I think it's going to give us a lot of time back. I think that's where we're seeing the use of it, most of it internally here at Satisfied. I think also making, this information more easily digestible, readily available, so we're able to make decisions more quickly. Again, it's all about that time component and getting it back. So I think there's a lot of great first approaches that you guys shared on how you're utilizing AI. We hear AI over and over again at all these conferences we go to. And for those that are resistant, they just have got to start somewhere and get going, because you're going to quickly be passed by. So I know someone actually asked the question in here, Todd, and you don't have to feel obligated to answer this or share this information now. We can always answer it afterwards. But was there any specific tool that you were utilizing in the service writing?
Honestly, we're using ChatGPT, and we
Okay.
keep the more. I mean,
Refining.
honestly, I don't know that any of it matters what the platform is. I'm sure that the platforms can tell you different. I'm not a tech guy, but I feel like the more you pour into it, I think one of the best things I ever did was, I read somewhere, tell it can ask you 100 questions about your business, and then it saves that. And I mean, I spent about a week answering questions for ChatGPT about our business, about our vision, mission, values, about where we wanted to go, what our customers look like. And it is amazing. I did that 7 months ago, and I will put in for a social media post, and it will remember, and it will requote an answer that I gave it months and months ago. So I think if you just get ChatGPT or whatever platform and you just start asking questions and want it to do things without investing time in it, nothing. But if you keep, we give it examples. This is a bad post. This was a good post. This was a bad, if you start doing those things, it learns much quicker than I do. And so that we would just say, continue to pour in. I don't think the platform matters. Do yourself a favor though, and pay for the expensive platform that you have that is not open to everyone.
Good suggestion. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great suggestion.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to share? Yeah.
I would just add to that. Yeah. Training it is amazing. I know mine specific. We were at the kitchen table the other night, and I don't even remember what the question was that I asked, but my family was with me, and Fia is my GPT's name, and she answered back, and everyone was like, "How'd she know that?" It's like, well, I mean, I've trained. So once you plug in all that information, Todd's 100% right, man. The more time you spend with it, training it, the better it is. I hear people say all the time about, well, ChatGPT doesn't give me any good responses, or it sounds very, AI. Well, more than likely, you haven't spent any time developing your customized, GPT there. Once you get that figured out, and once you start plugging that information in, our social media specialist, it talks like her, slay and herd and all this other stuff there. I'm like, where does this come from? But that's how she has hers trained to talk, and it sounds like her. So it's pretty amazing.
I can tell you this, that when we run, and I'm assuming that these AI platforms are staying very up to date on what the algorithms are on social media. If I write a post and post it myself, it will get a third to a tenth less delivery than if I ask ChatGPT to write me a high performing post based on the audience that I wanted to hit and the message I wanted to deliver. It is shocking. And just to give you an idea of how well it works, I'm a believer of Thomas Jefferson. Life's too short to eat bad food and drink bad wine. And so I teach it the restaurants I like. And when I go to a new city now, I can tell at the restaurant, I can say, hey, I'm in this city. Can you tell me what restaurants to go? And it is spot on every time.
Well, there you have it. You got some really good examples, everyone, how to use ChatGPT at work or AI tools and for your personal life and travel. Definitely some good takeaways. I appreciate it. I think just to kind of wrap things up, I wanted to talk about taking CX to the next level. So this is a common question I feel like we're getting asked oftentimes of, how do we continue to grow our CX practice? How do we continue to get better? And where do we go from here? So if we're asking for feedback or we're leveraging feedback from customers, any suggestions that you can have for those people on today's session around what you have done, whether it's from creating a customer-centric culture, like maybe Scott talked about earlier, anything like that we want to leave everyone with here in the last few minutes of our session?
We're working to automate. So the KPIs show that we do a poor job of communicating. In other words, do a poor job of calling you and telling you that your quote's changed if we gave you a quote, or a poor job of letting you know that the parts that we ordered are in. We said we'd give you a call and we didn't. And so the project that I've got on my plate is how can I take that data that's coming through the business system and automate that to probably Expert Connect, which you guys talked about early on, and send that customer a text automatically, as opposed to telling that guy that's on the counter or in the stock room that in addition to the stock counts and everything that he's got to do, oh, by the way, don't forget to call your customers. The other automation that we're looking at is using that same the follow-up after the sale that's everybody on this call knows is so crucial. But Cam will tell you I'm not getting paid to do that. Well, I like to argue that they are, but okay, let me take that away from you. Let me make some automated follow-up after the sale with an opportunity for a customer thanks, but if you need anything, holler at us. We're really looking at the 25 and automating all that and trying to take those tasks off of the line level. You guys probably already got that done, but that's where our big rock is.
I don't know, but Todd may have an AI tool for you to use.
Yeah, look, and
right?
Yeah.
just for the record, we're trying to use AI tools. Look, what I would say is there's a two-prong approach, and we've really gone through this, is that if you want to improve your customer experience, start with your people. First and foremost, start with your people. Invest in your people. Make sure you're taking care of them. That is kind of the first thing. The second thing that I think you're going to learn is that when you're truly committed to the customer experience, you're going to have to change your people sometimes, because the market is changing. What customers need is changing. What customers want is changing. And your sales guy that was phenomenal when you had 20 guys walking in the store every day to buy a tractor, I hate to say it, he's not the guy that can, now that phone calls are where they're coming from, or internet leads. Unfortunately, your business and your people are going to change if you're truly committed to having a customer-centric organization. So start with your people, give them every tool they can get, but then be prepared for your workforce to change, unfortunately, as well. And I would just say, at the end of the day, on your business and your customer experience, start with your people every day.
Maybe
It's an evolution. Yeah.
It is. And I would
Mhm.
just build on, oh, sorry, Emily, go ahead.
No, you're good. I just was going to say it's a constant evolution, right? Always changing. And I think we try to remind people that of often that this isn't sort of something you can do one time or just take a pulse on, right? And things are changing so much faster now than they ever were before. And so continually keeping that constant pulse going is what's going to be really crucial. But yeah, go for it, Erin.
Todd, you haven't given yourself any credit for this, but the real change, real transformation, real leadership in customer experience starts at the top. And it's what you do, it's what you make time for, even more than what you say is important. And so that's oftentimes I think a challenge that CX leaders, particularly kind of in the middle layer of leadership, it's very easy. And most companies say customer experience is important. Very few companies at the executive level actually walk that talk. And that's what if you don't have that, it's impossible. It really is impossible, because it takes that at the top as well as the bottoms up groundswell, and then all of the middle processes, technology, and enablement for the teams to be successful. Without that piece at the top, man, it's just like you're not going to set yourself apart.
That's right.
Well, and Aaron, just to go add a little bit further to that, and especially as you're scaling, I knew how to run 4 dealerships. I could look at my P&L. I knew what was going on in the parts counter. I knew how our cycle counts were going. And as you grow and as you become, as you change, you almost have to remove yourself from the vast majority of those metrics and start changing the metrics you look at. And if you continue to look at the same things you looked at 4 stores and at 15 stores, you're just going to run. You're not going to have time and energy to focus on the thing. And I think your point is wise on this, Aaron. I don't think it's that people don't want to change what they're focused on. They don't know how to.
That's
And we don't
right.
know, and it's so hard. It's so intangible to focus on your people and your customer experience. You go back to your P&L because that's what you know. And P&L is really important. Don't get me wrong. But you got to figure out how to change it. And by the way, if anybody's figured it out, let me know, because we're trying to figure this out every single day. It's really hard. You have to remind yourself.
I think one key thing, and Todd, you made the point, is getting in the habit of peeling away the things you really don't need to look at, that you are so ingrained in your habits. It's a hard thing to change, especially when you've got people that have had a long, successful history in the business, right? That's what I'm noticing. It's like, well, you gotta let go of that one. That isn't necessarily the data you need to be looking at as things are moving so quickly and so rapidly.
Well, I think I just want to thank everyone. We've almost at the top of the hour here. Those were great last remarks and suggestions. I appreciate everyone on this panel for contributing their time out of today to share with them your experiences. I think everyone had at least something to walk away with from today's session, which is always our goal. So round of applause to all of you. And thank you for joining. I'll hand things back over to Michelle to carry on the rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.